Well, hey y'all. John Hardison here with you from East Hall High School in Gainesville, Georgia. Got a question for you. What do you get when you take challenging prompts and add them with teamwork and creativity and differentiated learning? Well, all those ingredients make up something called the Blender Interactive Learning Structure. Let's go take a look. Come on. So here I am inside a building we call Epic One, in which we try to do some creative learning structures and good project-based learning designs. And so the Blender is made up like this. Tables 1 all the way around to 10. And teammates are at these tables, and we do label these A, B, C, and D. Sometimes we give them different jobs, different duties within those teams. However, you will actually see that each table is designated with a different assignment. So we will give out our prompts, and we may give out multiple prompts and try to spread those out so that we continue to cover through our content. But what we'll do is team number 1, they'll answer the prompt very creatively after a brief amount of teamwork time to get everything ready, and they're going to answer that in the form of a smartphone or tablet app. So they will create one of those. They can feel free to draw it on this dry erase board. Obviously we can give them a dry erase board right here. I know many people just pull up a slide on their dry erase boards in their classrooms, and students will draw that app, the actual icon, and then they'll give a pitch about that app, and their app must answer the prompt. Now team 2 is going to be a children's toy or a board game, video game, something creative like that. They will be giving us a pitch about that also and how it relates to the prompts. Now take a look here. Table 3 and table 8. Notice I have higher chairs there, higher tables. Those two teams, I will give them the same prompt, but they'll have to decide on if they agree or disagree, and ultimately I want opposing sides, and when we do get opposing sides, they will come to the center of our room here and they will debate, and they will have a debate for 3 one-minute sessions each. So each side will have 3 one-minute sessions back and forth, and we will not talk over anybody or interrupt a la Fox News or CNN. And yes, I covered both sides there. If you also will look, Table 4 is going to either create their own music or they're going to find lyrics from songs that relate to the prompt. Obviously, they got to validate how the music they created or the music they found actually validates their answer and answers the prompt. Team 5 right here, Team 5 is going to be our movie trailer, and we always use Pablo Francisco's movie trailer voice, and we will have our team right here model what he has done, and hopefully they will give us the movie trailer voice, and they will give us, coming this fall, the story of an interactive learning structure called The Blender. So they will be acting that out. And then right here, Team 6 is a straight up acting skit. They can act it in any genre they want, any style they want, but ultimately it must answer the prompt. And then right here, Team 7, we give them a choice. We say you can either relate current events or historical events to the prompt and then teach us on that, or you can simply answer the prompt as we take some Nerf balls, and as you stand right here in the middle of the class for 1 to 2 solid minutes, you must simultaneously throw those balls to the right without dropping and catch those back and forth continuously as each member talks about the answer to that prompt. Now you'll see that on some video examples here shortly, so that one's a lot of fun, and it definitely messes with right brain and left brain. I've already mentioned Team 8 and how they debate with Team 3. 9 right here, 9 is going to be our elaborate handshake. You'll have to take a look at the example that we have given you, but basically they create a symbolic elaborate handshake with each thing that they do symbolizes an answer or a portion of the answer to that prompt. And finally, everybody loves roll call. Will Ferrell and Sherry O'Terry from Saturday Night Live. So you'll see when they're cheerleaders and how they do the roll call. And so we, of course, have a template for our students or participants here to do the roll call. And of course, again, like everything else, what they say must answer the prompt, and then they must validate that. This is an absolutely rocking interactive structure called the Blender, and please remember, as I'll show in more detail here shortly, we can mix and match people in and out with our ABCD model, or we can simply move teams around, whole team at a time as they go to each station, and we continue to go through our reading, our math, our science, our prompts, our questions, whatever it may be. And the pressure is on the students, and of course it's student-centered, and teacher is just a facilitator. So I'm telling you, you add those ingredients and a little bit of energy, you're going to rock it out with the blending interactive learning structure. All right, let's take a look a little bit more. Now, before we take a look at the Blender interactive learning structure and rock the class, let's go over just a couple of things that are pivotal to the success of the Blender. First of all, please have the right mindset. We know that the Blender can be difficult and challenging because of the upper level creativity involved, and some students will kind of buck the system just a bit, maybe because they're scared, they're out of their comfort zones. But after they do it the first time and see how engaging it is, they're surely going to ask for more. Nelson Mandela said, "It always seems impossible until it is done." Secondly, we use the ABCD seating arrangement a lot of the times, and we let these letters designate certain types of learning styles, learning personalities. Sometimes these are heterogeneous groupings or maybe homogeneous groupings. However you want to differentiate, just know that you can let this organize your teams for success in the Blender interactive learning structure. Now here's an example of my dream class. Let's just say we took all of these brilliant students and we placed them, for example, here maybe according to learning styles, learning personalities, and as you can see, we designated A, B, and C. We did not use teams of 4 here because this is a class of 3, so we went with 10 teams of 3. And then here it is within their teams. 1 ABC, 2 ABC, so on and so on, and you can see a pretty good mixture. For example, take a look at your first team and look at how creative that may be. Look at how they would possibly counterbalance each other. For example, team 2, team 3, and team 4 go all down through there, and you'll see how this would be excellent balance, possibly a little bit of friction, but that friction may also create some high-level creativity. And then, of course, within this structure right here, you could always rotate these students out of their teams. A could rotate to the next team forward, B could rotate a team backwards, and all of a sudden you got a different mixture, but possibly have the same type of personalities and styles. So a lot of stuff you can do with our foundational ABCD model, and perhaps I'll share more on this one in a later blog post where we talk about how we use this as a structure in itself. Very powerful. But now, drum roll, the Blender interactive learning structure. Here's how it looks from a bird's eye view. So as you can see, team 1, smartphone app. Team 2, children's toy, video game, or board game. 3 does a debate against team 8 in the center of the room. Team 4 either creates part of an authentic song, or they grab verses from other songs that relate to the prompt and help them answer and validate their answers. So the movie trailer, please make sure you look at Pablo Francisco's excellent version, and then acting is self-explanatory. Now for 7, we give a little bit of a choice. We say you can connect it to historical or current events or maybe thematic connections, or do the Nerf ball challenge, which again is where they speak for a designated time as they simultaneously pass the balls to the right and have to catch simultaneously as each person takes a designated time to speak. You'll have to check the video out to see how this works, and I think the video example may give you just 2 people, but imagine this being a team of 3 or 4. Highly interactive, and if I'm being honest with you, it's quite funny to watch. The elaborate handshake is team 9, and when you do click on that, you're going to get some more information. We give the kids some instructions, we give them example, and then when I go back to roll call for team 10, you can see Will Ferrell and Sherry O'Terry from Saturday Night Live, and we give the students a little bit of a script, and then we of course ask them to watch this, and then they create some pretty amazing stuff. A lot of fun. Now if you don't like any of this right here that you see and you want to make them interchangeable and put some new things in, no problem. You can create your own, or you can go borrow from our ideas. I think we have about 50 plus ideas here in addition to the 10 you just saw. Many taken from Whose Line Is It Anyway, but others are quite original. If I'm being honest with you, I'm trying to remember all of these as I scroll through. My friends and I, my colleagues and I have been brainstorming, and we are looking at adding examples of these. Very creative stuff, so know that that is in the works. But the blender is absolutely awesome. One thing I want to say as we go out is you can give the same prompt or topics or content to the entire class if you want. Just know that that may slow you down in what so many teachers say they have to cover so much content. However, what I like to do a lot of the times is I give, for example, teams 1, 2, 3, and 8, I give them a certain chapter or certain pages or certain problems, and then I'll give 4, 5, and 6 something else, and then so on with 7 and 9 and 10. That way it spreads out my content. I still am covering. It's putting pressure on the students and giving them accountability to where they have to teach, they have to know their knowledge, and then ultimately it's very, very student-centered. Hey, give it a try, the Blender Interactive Learning Structure. If you have any questions, please hit me up on the post. I hope you rock it out. See you guys. And one final thing, please remember that the Blender Interactive Learning Structure is not sit and get. In fact, in our class, what we do is after a presentation, we will go to a spinner and we'll spin. When it lands, for example, on team number 8, we'll say, okay, team number 8, you just heard, for example, team number 4 present. You and your teammates need to quickly refute, validate, or augment what was just said. All of the students would then go to their graphic organizers, and then we would listen to that team kind of give a summary of what they just witnessed. I would step in as a facilitator of learning, and I would either check for inaccuracies or clarify, and then of course I would move on. Please know that if this team, for example team 8, were unable to fulfill the request, not as punishment, but just as, I guess you would say, consequences and kind of the fun, engaging learning activity that we got going on, we would go back to right here something called payoffs, and this just happens to be an example of a bunch of payoffs. This is 1 through 10. We have a list of these, but this is a set I'm looking at right now. So for example, I would say, all right, team 8, you could not tell us accurately what this team just presented on. You could not validate, refute, or augment. So pick a number, and I'll have a number of folders up on the dry erase board in the room, and they'll pick from that. And I'll have the class do a cheesy little drum roll, and then we'll draw the message that is within that folder. So for example, if they said, all right, we'll choose number 1, then they would have to, for 1 minute, voice over a video clip that I would choose. For example, it would be much like this from Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Long.
Well, you say that a lot, but you know what? I'm worried about Bob.
Really wish you wouldn't interrupt me in the middle of a sentence.
And of course, you've seen Whose Line Is It Anyway before, and you see the voice dubbing that they do, but that's what that particular team would have to do. Now, again, I do not want this to seem like it is for punishment, because it is not, and within the first 2 weeks of school, we have hopefully established a very family-like learning environment in which none of us are disrespected or anything like that. Instead, we've established a fun, engaging learning environment, and just know that if maybe they all got, say, 3 or 4 rounds in a row that were successful and they could validate, refute, or augment the other team's presentations, then I may say, hey, you all pick a folder or a number, and I'll do whatever is within that folder. And let's say they pick number 5. Then, as you can see here, I would be dramatically lip-syncing for 90 seconds to Billie Jean by Michael Jackson. So, in other words, I model anything that I ask them to do. They definitely see that I would lose cool points, but they would know that, hey, this is a teacher trying. And almost all the time, it results in the entire class lip-syncing or doing the karaoke version together or whatever the assignment calls for. But that's just a quick brain break. It only lasts about 90 seconds, and then we dive right back into our standards and our learning activities that are going on. So, hope this helps out, and go rock.